The film begins with Kevin Wendelcrum speaking to 4 kidnapped high school cheerleaders as Patricia, one of his more reassuring personas, in an effort to calm them down. In another part of Philadelphia, 2 punk teenagers jump a defenseless man to make a terrible internet video. David Dunn stalks them in the dark as he follows them to their house and beats them for inflicting harm on another person. Later, David goes to meet his now-adult son Joseph, who has been assisting him for years in catching thieves using surveillance footage. David has earned the nickname the Overseer thanks to his actions. In an effort to locate the missing girls and halt further killings, they are currently pursuing the horde. David has been missing his wife Audrey, who has since left him, outside of their work. Later, David goes for a nice walk through the town, bumping into people as he goes in an effort to locate the horde through physical contact. In the location where the girls are being held, he comes across Kevin and pushes past him before catching a glimpse of him. Joseph is contacted, and Kevin is followed. Just before Kevin makes a surprise appearance as the Beast, David arrives and sets the girls free. The Beast throws a table at one of the girls as she attempts to flee, hurting her. The Beast and David fight until they both drop out of a window. Kevin is suddenly startled out of his Beast persona by a bright flash of light. A squad of armed men under Dr. Ellie Staples' command confronts them. David is taken along with them as well after they capture Kevin because Staple alleges that David has injured people. Staple is interested in investigating David and Kevin, so they are brought to Raven Hill Psychiatric Hospital. She asserts to be an expert in a specific branch of psychiatry for those who think they obtain superpowers. Kevin is put in a room where flashing lights will make him change into a less dangerous persona if he tries to transform into the Beast, while David is put in a room where multiple water hoses will spray him if he is deemed a threat. Elijah Price, nicknamed Mr. Glass, who David still believes caused the train crash that only he survived, resides in the facility as well. However, Elijah has spent the entire time being kept under heavy sedation. Following her capture, Casey Cook has returned to school and is now referred to by her classmates as the girl who escaped Kevin. When she arrives at the principal's office, she is informed that Kevin has been found. Daryl, a facility employee, gets Kevin a visit in his room. Before switching to Scottish twins, Kevin adopts a flamboyant persona to tease Daryl. Daryl starts manually flashing the lights to keep Kevin away until he transforms into Patricia and is poised and elegant. After trying to get away, David is sprinkled with water until he becomes weak. He explains to Staple that he must go outside in order to stop Kevin, but she assures him that Kevin is restrained. Staple meets with Mrs. Price, Elijah's mother, separately to discuss her son's health and personality as well as with Joseph to discuss his work with his father. She insists that unless she can wake David up from his delusion, he will remain in an institution and that he is just as dangerous to others as the people he tries to stop. Later, Casey returns to Raven Hill to see Kevin dressed as Hedwig, who continues to think of Casey as his girlfriend. Staple believes that Casey's presence and the affection she shows Kevin will allow Kevin to be himself and not take on a different identity. When Casey is able to free Kevin, she tells him that she had her abusive uncle imprisoned for what he had done to her. As Kevin begins to break down and cry, he eventually assumes a different persona. Staple makes the decision to combine her 3 subjects in one room for her final assessment. After all these years, David is upset to finally meet Elijah in person. Staple makes an effort to persuade the men that their alleged delusions are a result of personal traumas. For David, it was a childhood incident in which some youngsters attempted to drown him in a pool. After Kevin's father passed away, he endured years of abuse at the hands of his mother. Elijah receives an apology from Staple for how he was treated unfairly. Casey and Joseph take independent trips to comic book stores, to better understand the situations involving Kevin and David. To find out more about Kevin's father, Joseph also looks into his past. Pierce, a different facility employee, enters Elijah's room carrying a flashlight and jokingly allows it to fall onto Elijah's legs before catching it. Since Elijah left his room the previous night, he claims he is there to see how he is doing. Shortly after that, he enters the surveillance room covertly to read Kevin's file. He then addresses Patricia before entering Kevin's room. Elijah asserts that Staple's research will not disprove the existence of their extraordinary abilities, and he also expresses his desire to encounter the Beast. Elijah returns to his room to sleep, but Staple wakes him up later and informs him that she saw him leave the room on surveillance footage and is taking him to have work done on his frontal lobe. This reminds Elijah of a time when he was a child and riding a ride alone at an amusement park when he made a mistake that broke his arm. Daryl gets Elijah a visit in his room after Staple departs. Daryl's throat is slashed by Elijah using a hidden glass shard. He then makes his way back out of his room to meet the Beast. He accepts to follow Elijah in his scheme to have a bad guy team up because he believes Elijah to be pure for his circumstance. Elijah informs David over the intercom that the water has been turned off and issues a death threat if David doesn't manage to escape his room. The security cameras show Pierce Darrell's dead body. Elijah is captured by him and the Beast after being found in a storage room. As punishment for Pierce hurting Elijah, the Beast squeezes Pierce's body until he severs his spinal column and kills him. 3 security personnel discover the Beast as it wheels Elijah out of the building and into the tunnels. The Beast violently dispatches the men as Elijah rolls away. David manages to break down the door and exit his room in the meantime. Knowing that there will be a sizable crowd gathered at the recently unveiled Osaka Tower, Staple assumes that Elijah and the Beast are en route there after discovering Darrell dead. She sends her men after them to prevent them from leaving the area. To witness the altercation, Casey, Joseph, and Mrs. Price all show up at the location. David appears and engages the Beast in combat, trading powerful blows with one another. Joseph intervenes to tell the Beast how his father passed away. He was riding on the same train that Elijah derailed but that David survived. Elijah tries to defend himself by saying that it was necessary for the Beast to be born, which only serves to inflame the Beast's anger toward him for his deception. He breaks more bones in Elijah's body by crushing his shoulder and causing him to fall from his wheelchair. When the water storage tank is about to burst and release them, the Beast throws David into it before continuing to fight David. When Casey finally gets to the Beast, she addresses him as Kevin. Kevin returns to normal as a result of it, but one of Staple's men shoots him in the abdomen because he is now exposed. As Kevin passes away in Casey's arms, his many personalities, especially Hedwig, Patricia, and Barry, emerge for the final time. 2 of the mercenaries seize David, who is still weak from the water, and force his head into a water-filled pothole. David touches Staple's hand as she approaches him. With identical clover tattoos on their wrists, he can tell that she is a member of a covert group. She tells him that the group works to keep people with superpowers under the radar and that the death of superheroes is necessary to stop the rise of supervillains. She inquires as to whether she has ever persuaded David that he is a regular man. The men continue to submerge David in the puddle after that. Running over to his father's body, Joseph sobs. Just before he too passes away, Mrs. Price, also known as Elijah, assures him that he was not a mistake. Later, Staple addresses her companions to announce the outcome of their mission. She next visits a comic book store, where she overhears 2 customers discussing a particular villain known as the Mastermind, who is able to get people to ignore him while he executes his true plan. Because of this, Staple understands that Elijah had a bigger scheme all along. When she returns to the facility, she discovers that Elijah purposefully used the tunnels to escape in order for David, Kevin, and the cameras to capture their images. The video was posted online, so everyone will now be aware that people with superpowers do exist. Staple exits the observation area and screams in frustration. After posting the video to the internet, Casey, Joseph, and Mrs. Price congregate at a station. In order to ensure that their loved ones' legacies are preserved, they wait while those around them watch the video before it is broadcast on the news. Well, that's all for today's video. We hope you enjoyed it, and please support us by subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon to get notification for new videos every we post.